What do you call a tiny yellow person in overalls that's forced to work for a pale-faced villain in a factory-like environment with only gibberish as their native language and the small number of English words used sounding dangerously weird and far from understandable? You call it a minion, you fucking racist.
Hello?
So we opened the movie with the logo of a studio nobody seems to care about nowadays. Let's see here. Bell bottoms, ridiculous hair, platform shoes, funky music, massive sideburns, fluid sexuality. Folks, I think we might be in the 1970s. Naturally, we first go to our main focus of the film, that being the League of Villains. I refuse to call them by their real names, so I'll just call them as I see them. There's ass, masturbated hands, church fetish, BDSM gear man, masturbated hands, herpes version, and finally, the old fart. Naturally, old fart thinks the pinnacle of the action movie genre is Indiana Jones, so he decides to rip it off by looking for a round green rock and other rocks that are neither green nor round. He enters a massive complex pyramid thing and traces the damn thing relatively easy for someone who's like 789 years old, and just before he leaves the area with the stone, he's attacked by those toys you get in Kinder Eggs that fall apart. Oh wait, your American ass can't legally buy Kinder Eggs. Fucking losers. Of course, Old Fart manages to flee the reject toys only to be betrayed by his own team, which should neither shock nor surprise anyone considering they're the butt-fucking villains. Of course they'll do shady shit. So we're in an elementary school observing all of those boomer students that'll fuck up the US economy and complain about the quality of the TV programming. Remember, this is the generation that eventually raised millennials and zoomers, folks, and their education system is just as terrible as it is today.
Loyal employee.
What?
You're supposed to be a comedy channel. What is this political nonsense?
But I was just being...
You know, our viewers have the attention span of a dung beetle, loyal employee. Where's the lowbrow comedy? Where are the politically correct but still vulgar and childish jokes? Our demographic wants crudeness and infant reactions, none of the serious talk.
But I just wanted to...
Please refrain from that behavior in the future, lest we replace you with someone else. We value your time as our employee, after all, so the replacement would hurt us more than it would hurt you. Not in a financial or physical way, of course, nor a moral one.
Right. It's in the school that we meet our young protagonist before he grew up. And here we see him aspiring to sound a little less like Steve Carell. Our little villain has a fun-filled day recycling the montage from the previous movies when suddenly he gets a message from Ass that he's gonna join the villain team. Since they're his #1 obsession, he squeals over the news worse than a horny American girl over a mediocre K-pop band and enters to tell his mom the good news. His mom, a spitting image of Nancy Pelosi, cares not a lick for him, so he instead goes to his surrogate family of yellow creeps. For some reason, all of them, including the fat blabbermouth one, call him the mini-boss.
Can you stop calling me that? I've told people time and time again I hate that nickname.
What? Oh, Jesus. I didn't call you here or anything. I said mini-boss, not mid-boss.
Oh, really?
Yes, really. Now get the hell out of here.
Well, just so we're clear, never call me that again. Ever.
I'd even call you that first time around, asshole.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Oh, wait, hold on. Can you stay and help me review this movie?
Sure, I have nothing better to do anyway. Well, from what we can tell, in this universe, supervillains are popular enough to get their TV segments in the 70s, which kind of explains every Richard Nixon and old men are vigorous enough to beat up the people they're supposed to be paying. But that matters little, since we have the story of our villain actually meeting the minions for the first time, and they brush it away like 2 scenes, I swear. I've had battles with Lahari that last longer than that, so our intrepid villain decides to visit his favorite villains. And it goes about as well as you'd imagine. So the gang decides to celebrate. They got the Chinese Zodiac medallion after all. Except there's one problem. The overweight minion traded it for a pet rock. Oh, how I wish I had a pet rock growing up. But yeah, the little man fires all of the minions on the spot. And instead of forming a labor union, they just start crying with the long minion trying to convince the kid to come back. However, the kid does have one strong argument against staying, and that's him being kidnapped. Take it away, Monsieur Naruto.
Thanks, weird demon dude from a Japanese video game. So, Old Fart kidnaps the tiny villain and tortures him for information, just like any other grandfather of his generation would do to a child. He has a quick chat with the long minion about proper parenting tips, but then insists that the minions show him his behavior in person. The Yellow Brigade goes over to a Ginger Kid's house in order to siphon out information on the stone, but we all know gingers are soulless wretches, so the info goes nowhere. Then the fat minion decides to follow a wily biker, trying to emulate Eric Cartman. Meanwhile, the rest of the main minion cast decides to prove that the US airlines have always been incompetent and downright horrific. I mean, they have to be when they let these three yellow freaks sneak on board a plane without being detected. I wonder what could go wrong. So let's quickly do a wellness check on our main cast. The kid is forced to listen to some crappy music on repeat, making this another South Park joke that the writers of this movie want to steal. I wonder if Trey and Matt ought to sue. Anyway, the fat minion continues to pursue his dreams of talking into a black burly biker, while long minion, short minion, and tiny minion are infiltrating the supervillain, eager to help their master. Naturally, sticking out like a big yellow exposed testicles, the minions are exposed by Old Fart's discount Beetle servants, and a chase ensues. Of course, the group of yellow individuals goes directly into Chinatown, and I am not making any assumptions, just making that clear to anyone. Like watching, I'm a good, tolerant guy, I swear. Anyway, the minions enter Chinatown and there's an old Chinese lady doing acupuncture, which is totally fine. It's not a cliche or a weird thing at all. She's allowed to do that. I swear I'm a good person. And while this old lady is initially quiet and reserved, she does decide to mess the henchman up by using kung fu, which is totally not a stereotype. It's all good. School you guys. I swear, nothing suspect going on. So to make this confusing film even more confusing, the three main minions ask the acupuncture lady to teach them martial arts. Of course, she first declines, but they ultimately convince her by posing for their new line of action figures and plushies. Yes, the ones that friggin' outsell even Pikachu. Naturally, we can't introduce the plot point of the kid's mom without using it somehow, so her house is crashed by 5 villains, including their big, loud, and female main boss, Ass herself. Here we go.
Hey, I damn told you to stop calling me that.
I said main boss, not mid boss.
What?
Main boss, because she has a mane like a lion. It's her huge hair. Get it?
That's a bit of a stretch for a joke, don't you think?
Hey, we've got to stretch these things out in any way we can. The algorithm seems to favor long-form videos.
Can't you just let the video stand on its own merit rather than rely on artificially inflating the views?
Dude, have you ever seen any popular YouTube videos?
Oh yeah, you've got a point then.
Well, now that you're here, feel free to take over. I need to take a piss.
The three stooges are placed in a room with the small women in order to train for their inevitable battle with the villains. They should have just called Xu Xiaodong, but hey, I doubt the Chinese government would let him leave the country as is. And now that I'm here, I must address the obvious point. No, my student move is in no way to be confused with China's own Chaiman Mao Zedong. Please stop asking me that in the comments. Now, unlike the games I'm in, this movie has to have some sappy emotional moments. So here we have the old fart rescuing the kid and employing him as a pool boy. And before we find out what his exact duties are, we cut to fat minion and boring biker guy becoming BFFs and taking pictures across the continental United States. The kid's back in view, he says the old coot, he becomes his family favorite person ever, etc. All of that while our yellow pot lickers learn that there's a beast inside them or something. And yes, this will play a part later. So, the kid and the old fart decide to kickstart Occupy Wall Street a few decades earlier, visiting a supervillain bank disguised as, well, themselves. This is actually a cunning plan, not gonna lie. I wish I'd thought of that while I was climbing the ladder to obtain the throne and become overlord, but my failures aside, this scene plays out exactly as intended. The grandpa pretends to be sick, the kid uses a tool from that weird British guy near the beginning of the movie to open the vault door. They manage to escape under everyone's noses, and our villain brings with the latest painting of Bob Ross that he managed to snatch. The old fart is pleased, and the two become the best of friends again. I'm getting a bit sleepy. This YouTube thing is really tough. Hey, come back and finish this video off.
Our intrepid heroes decide to invade the home of an elderly man using their supernatural kung fu skills to break his bones and rescue a pudgy kid who clearly has desires to be a criminal growing up. These are your children's role models, folks, but before they can use their vibrating palms of death, the home itself becomes the next candidate for Extreme Makeover Home Edition. Fat Minion actually makes it onto the scene, partaking in a cultural exchange with the local San Franciscans, and of course he gets the Chinese zodiac necklace from the boring biker. He's voiced by a rapper, by the way, and not a particularly good one to boot. Old Fart sees that his home hasn't been renovated in time, which makes him feel more furious than angry. Joe, when he learns that his audience disagrees with him. Not understanding my reference, the kid villain tries to cheer the old idiot up, but their grandpa merely yells at him and tells him to go away. Devastated, the tiny villain enters one of the famed cable cars. No, not the one Tommy Wiseau tends to ride. That one was sold to a museum for $7 million. Yes, the fat minion makes his way to the kid, they reunite, and the bling that the tubby yellow bastard took from that has been rapper ends up in the kid's hands. Obviously, the villains are pissed and that medallion was stolen from them, and I must again reiterate, where's the damn surprise? They're villains. Shady shit is what their bread and butter is. Yet they get pissy at a kid for doing what they literally did days before meeting him. I swear, this movie has some dumbass characters. Anyway, Ass activates the stone once the FBI comes over to investigate her emails for possible Russia collusion and shady dealings in Ukraine, but the big-haired lady and the rest of the goons transform into giant furries. Please, do not Google Rule 34 of these characters. You'll need bleach to wash your eyes out. The kid gets tied to a clock, reenacting a scene from the Batman movie, probably while the furries are about to devour other furries, possibly exploring vor as the next in line of fetishes. But before they can learn how it feels to yiff, the old fart decides to attack Ass and her crew, and the tiny minion furries help. Naturally, the main minions have to have that particular moment where they find their mojo and finally defeat the big bad villains. One of them even becomes a father or a mother or both? I'm not sure, and I couldn't care less to check. And yes, we have everything near the end. The fake out death, the final blow by the film's main heroes, the kid being smug in his victory, and the villains getting their comeuppance. Jesus, a funeral in a kid's movie. Yeah, we need more of those to be ish, but yeah, it's fake. The old fart is alive and all is well. But there's an extra scene, and it's one where the kid villain and his workforce actually Brexit the movie, with the little ones calling him Big Boss as a neat little rap quip up. But I said Big Boss, not